is a reason why people like Fridays, and it just might be that it's highs and lows days, campaign highs and lows days, at around 1 p.m.-ish on Fridays, Hong Kong time, Singapore time.
The keyword being around.
Around 1 p.m. I'm Robert Sawatsky, together with Sun Chen Kung and Matthew Miller, and we are at Campaign Asia Pacific headquarters here in Hong Kong on a week where the highs are making a little bit of a comeback. It's not so morose this week, but I did want to start with our first story, which is a low, and that was a story that our colleague Babar Khan Javed wrote in Singapore relating to the president of a McCann affiliate in Pakistan. So this is a sort of an ongoing probe after about 4 years. The NAB, which is the National Accountability Bureau in Pakistan, has been looking into this. This relates back to 2013 and 2015. Between that time, when what they allege is there was a information minister in a province in Pakistan who was allegedly conspiring with 7 different agency owners to put ad tenders up for without contest, and it was alleged that they sort of conspired to have these expensive ad campaigns be kind of won without contest, and that's what they're alleging. So the Masood Hashmi, who is the OrientM president, which is a McCann affiliate there, he was one of these 7 agency owners. Some of the other agencies that are named are not related to directly to the major holding companies, which is why they weren't listed as prominently in our story. Also, we have had some feedback. It's sort of a touchy issue politically. Obviously, there are a lot more people involved also from the government in this scandal that's happening in Pakistan, but we didn't go into that. We had some email on this, people wondering why kind of other people weren't named. Clearly, our focus is on kind of the marketing side and advertising side. So that's why we kind of focused there. But I think that it's also fair to say that this is not something that I think that anyone would say is endemic to McCann or is could even really hurt their brand perhaps more than others. I see this more as a story that happened in a particular place and as a particular incident, but at the same time it raises that whole issue of the problem of kickbacks and potential kind of rebates or basically not full transparency within kind of the ad industry. So if there is going to be a bit of a tarnish, I think it's probably more of an industry-wide thing than anything.
Yeah, but there's certainly it's not a totally isolated thing. There have been similar cases in other countries in recent years. I can remember one in Korea, for example. So I think it is something that's always a bit of a challenge for a large multinational network to keep tabs on every affiliate relationship, and make that kind of oversight can be difficult to administer.
And the other incidents we've seen have been at other different holding companies as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So
that's right.
That's probably why. But still, I think that it's something again now. It kind of we've seen the media agencies under more scrutiny, not for corruption, certainly not, but just around kind of transparency, be kind of tested, and perhaps this will spark some concern, or again have more people concerned about more transparency even on the creative side when it comes to those kinds of contracts and so on. It was a good week, a high if you are a TV broadcaster in Hong Kong. Isn't that right, Chun Chen?
13% of year-on-year increase for Q3, according to the AdMango report about. So TV ad spend increased primarily because the report mentioned that TV ad spend increased primarily because of the increased number of TV stations in Hong Kong and also major advertisers like P&G following their global decision to abandon digital advertising to go back to traditional media. So Olay was mentioned as one of the biggest advertiser, but of course, like several, those are in digital advertising, those who are championing to bring digital advertising to a high level in Hong Kong. For example, like Kevin Huang, who's the CEO of Pixel, he was quite upset and he ranted in a Facebook post that digital advertising in Hong Kong has always been the poor cousin. It only surged up during difficult times, during SARS, during the 2008 recession, because it's supposed to be cheaper and advertisers put their money on digital when they didn't have enough budget, so to say. So, and for many industry insiders or for the, those, they're always talking about Hong Kong being that it's also a poorer cousin when compared to China, where digital advertising has been like very advanced. In fact, it's one of the forefront. They are being at the forefront in terms of going everything digital, mobile payment. But so there's a PwC report that mentioned that there are many good reasons for Hong Kong to be advanced in digital. For example, mobile penetration is high, but there are also many structures of Hong Kong, geographical structures that makes it difficult not so difficult, but a bit challenging, or the advertisers are a bit laid back in adopting digital and mobile payment because it's very dense and there are more reasons, there are better reasons. It's easier, they think that it's easier for them to reach consumers through OOH, and because OOH spending is also, out-home advertising is also pretty high in Hong Kong compared to other countries. But as Kevin mentioned that, so as digital marketers or advertisers, they also have a responsibility to make it easier for advertisers to understand digital and make it. And he and several other industries experts like Google and South China Morning Post, they set up Hong Kong Digital Marketing Association last year.
Yeah, we were at that launch last year.
Yeah, to set up standards, accreditation, to encourage more people to adopt.
And they were saying at that time too that again it's like that Hong Kong kind of was lagging, and really it kind of the digital advertising didn't have that credibility, had a credibility issue, right? And so this this report is seen as more grist for that. I think that there is probably a broader economic trend that when times are tough, that kind of advertisers revert to cheaper media, and TV has seen kind of a benefit, and the purse strings kind of open up a little bit when the economy gets better. So this might not wholly be a Hong Kong phenomenon.
One of the people commenting in that discussion, I can't remember who it was, so I apologize to whoever it was, said that that's just actually good strategy, that when your budget is limited, you cut out some top of the funnel activities in favor of the things that are closer to the point of conversion, the digital sale. And so that makes some sense. But the problem, this person pointed out, was that makes your pipeline empty then. You're getting fewer people into the customer journey where they would then lead to a sale. So sort of a balance is required, but also difficult to manage when budgets are limited. So.
And also the big spenders are very traditional sectors like finance, banking. They're spending close to about a third of the money on TV. So some of the agencies mentioned that because these are very traditional industries, and those at the top, the decision makers, they have a very traditional mindset towards how they want to get to the consumers, and also some of them, they feel that TV and traditional media is a more prestigious and increase the credibility. So there's still some awareness building in this aspect.
Yeah. And before we get too carried away with this report too, some have pointed out that there are some shortcomings too in terms of the type of digital media that's registered in this report, and that there's some social media videos, for instance, AdMango's working on including this more kind of comprehensive digital media inside the kind of report, and that might help shift things a little bit as well. Next story, again, I think it's also probably a bit of a high in that it's kind of a company that's doing something new, doing something innovative. we had a story from Japan about Toyota.
Yep, full credit to our colleague David Blecken in Japan, who handles our Japanese language edition up there. So this is basically the story is Toyota has opened a cafe where you can pick up some coffee and you can pick up a Danish, I suppose, or whatever, traditional cafe things, but you can also pick up a car. You can rent a car for basically roughly the same as you would pay for a cup of coffee in a large metro area. So this is in Nagoya, near the Toyota headquarters, and you can rent a car for as little as $9 an hour. So I think why we're classifying this as a high is so often we see big brands, in particular, seem to have trouble with adjusting to large social shifts that impact their business. And this is an example of a brand, actually trying something, at least to come to grips with a falling car ownership. David told me that car ownership in Japan is at its lowest level in 20 years, and the rise of car sharing, and the fact that a lot of young people don't really see the necessity of owning a car. So I think it's a smart strategy if they end up expanding it to other markets, where you get people in the door when they do need a car, you get them to know the brand, and then if they do eventually come to that point where they want to buy one, then you've already made a friend, and I think obviously that's a strategy. So David in his story pointed out that 4 years ago the president of Toyota, Akio Toyoda, expressed puzzlement at the values of the younger generation.
You can see some pictures of the inside, which looks quite nice.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Sorry.
So the Toyota president noted that in his day it would have been embarrassing for a man to ask a woman on a date if he didn't own a car. So that was 4 years ago. So at least some progress has been made.
Sorry, 4 years ago?
That was 4 years ago that he said that.
Oh, that he said that about the past.
So it'll be interesting to know whether his opinion has changed and whether he, maybe his mind would still be blown by a woman asking a man on a date or buying a car, but we don't know. But anyway, it's a good sign of a company, taking a step. Yet you do have to say their business is selling cars, and it's based on a volume business. And if car ownership really is going to fall and stay down, that's something that they'll have to come to grips with.
Yeah, and I think it comes at a good time for at least maybe the industry, because right now we're seeing some of the manufacturers in Japan are not having a good time right now. We have both Subaru and Nissan are kind of in the press, not in a good way, in terms of kind of allowing safety checks to happen that weren't fully up to standard, and they're both making sort of admissions about this. So they're under a lot of pressure, together with even Kobe Steel is another company that's had problems with checks. So right now, kind of made in Japan is a little bit under siege on the kind of the quality side. So a company that like Toyota that wants to again kind of come up with something new, just change the dialogue when it comes to car makers in Japan is probably a good timing for them. Would you want to go to a kind of a cafe if you were going to go to like a car rental agency or something like that? Would you want to sort of go to a cafe and have an experience with a brand before?
I guess that's a new experience. Like a lot of people like to try that because this concept has already been explored in books in other sectors like fashion. Like a lot of fashion stores, they also have a side cafe because cafe culture is very popular especially among millennials.
It might also solve the problem of sometimes you don't know, at certain rentals what you're going to get in terms of a car. But if you go to, say, the Toyota shop, you're pretty much kind of assured what kind of car you're going to get, and so could help you out that way.
To me, it would all come down to the coffee. If the coffee is good, I would probably go there.
It could be. From coffee to meatballs, IKEA. They're in a bit of hot water now, with an ad in China. Maybe you want to tell us about that.
So they have a 29 seconds ad, a very short ad showing this opening scene with a young woman, her parents, and her mother just put down the chopsticks and told her very harshly that don't call me mom if you don't bring a boyfriend home. So luckily for her, immediately the doorbell rang and a guy walks in and they're not very happy.
They did that really quickly. Wow, they got that house ready really quickly.
In under 30 seconds, but many consumers in China were very upset because it shows that it's a very touchy issue, like so many young people not getting married because the cut-off age in China is 27 for women, and they are showing that, so it's a very unwise move for IKEA to go into that area because they, in the sense that they're putting the young women in a very bad light. Like you have to get married, like you have to meet the societal expectations compared to a previous campaign by SK2, the left over women market, that really explores the emotional aspect of the issues, and it resonated very well, not just in China but internationally. And some people brought up the fact that IKEA, they couldn't possibly show the commercial. They have the same ad. Could they really have show the same ad in Sweden and other countries? So brands have a responsibility in reflecting back to their roots and being more careful in going into a very touchy issues such as this. And also I brought up in the review that the very theme of the campaign is carefree living every day. And it started with a scene that's very tense, like the mother putting down the chopsticks and close to banging on the kitchen table that you have to bring a guy back and or else I will talk to you.
I guess I kind of agree with everything that you said, except for the implication that it was unwise for them to go there at all. I think that for me it was actually a good example of how the creativity matters, because it wouldn't have taken much to change that ad. With the facial reactions of the young couple, show that they were like, oh God, these parents, they'll never get over this marriage issue, and then that puts the brand on the side of the young people, and shows that they're aware of it. It's just like a little change, So
some trolls in China, they have edited a video and they have another slogan like, don't simply bring anybody home.
Yeah. Don't bring anybody.
Yeah.
Good point.
No, it's true. I thought also in we sort of saw from IKEA's response, they actually did on a PR job on this. I'll rate them fairly highly for coming out and saying, our intent was originally this. We wanted to show how people can transform their homes to turn it into an event of celebration. We screwed up. We fully believe in gender equality. We think it's very important for people to live different lifestyles, and clearly their clientele as well. A lot of single people, when they're setting up their apartments, that's where they go, is IKEA. So they admitted, we screwed up on this and this and this level. We'll do better and forward. Didn't try to cover it up or make excuses.
They didn't try to throw an agency under the bus for it.
That happens too sometimes. So no, I think that.
And it's probably the second boo-boo for IKEA, because they were also in trouble earlier in Saudi Arabia, where they photoshopped women from the catalog for the Middle Eastern market. So consumers were pretty upset. Gender rights is also not really a touchy issue, but gender equality is a bit lower in Middle Eastern countries, and women are generally not portrayed in media. But so IKEA had thought that they were doing the right thing by removing women, but somehow they face a backlash.
Yeah, they violated what people expected, the stance people expected them to take.
All right, well, I guess we started with a low and ended with a bit of a low, but if we're talking about the work, maybe this is time to tell you that we have a new private view coming that people will be able to see next week. That'll come out for all the premium subscribers that we have. It's also, we're getting close to
because there are not
Singles
like
Day,
a lot
so
of
we're
great
going to
consequences
start
here.
looking at that, looking at what
If you make a
brands are
mistake.
doing.
It's trying to be funny for funny's sake.
Live streaming, fashion shows, or flash sales. And we also hope to find out what the new brands that are entering the Singles Day promotion.
And it's also Halloween next week, so I wouldn't be surprised if Adnut, pulls a bunch of spooky ads out of his hole in the tree. But we'll see. I think that's about it from us this week. So anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week, Friday at 1ish.
1ish.
See you.